These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
Reckless speculation.
Welcome into a Reckless Speculation Thursday here. Minnesota Sports with Mackie and Judd. Your home for Minnesota sports entertainment, therapy, and speculation.
Reckless speculation.
Doogie rocking his, looks like it's ironed and pressed Channel 5 Eyewitness News red polo today.
Neither.
Really?
It was at the back of the closet, Phil. Good morning to you, gentlemen. No, neither.
What's
I can
the
promise
oldest? Do you still wear that K-Fan Vikings Radio Network pullover from like 20 years ago?
Vikings Radio Network. Yeah, I did.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Once I fall in love with something, you should ask Laura about
your
this.
Your last day at K-Fan was 15 years ago. So that polo or that pullover, the quarter zip, existed before that, right?
That quarter zip was obtained 2006, 2007, something like that. Yeah, I still wear it. Yeah.
What's the oldest thing in your guys' repertoire? Judd, what's the oldest thing you wear? Oldest thing in your closet?
I've got a hoodie right now that's a Twins one that I bought probably in 2012. I can't.
That's not too bad.
Wear it out in public because it's so ripped up and torn now. But it is around my house a staple. But I've got the Dukes thing. I'm like a Ken doll. I come with like 3 outfits, and I'm going to wear every one of those and rotate them. Now I am good with wash, so like nothing is dirty. But
it's clean old stuff. It's tattered old, but it's clean.
Clothes. Once it's comfortable, who cares?
That's what I say. But my wife. So the other day, I'm folding some shirts. I have this University of Texas shirt. Well, guess what? Laura pulls out the photo from our honeymoon. This would have been October of 2009. We're in Hawaii. I'm wearing said shirt. The thing has been washed so many times. You can barely read the words TEXAS across the front. You can't even tell it's a gray shirt.
I remember.
She's like, what are you doing? Why are you still wearing that?
I feel like I remember a photo with like a tanned Doogie, just a big smile on his face and a Texas shirt from 15 years ago.
I still have it, Phil. Yeah, I do.
So, all right, this is Reckless Speculation Thursday here.
Reckless speculation.
We like to dive into inside information about Minnesota sports teams and or theories and speculation that we'd like to bring to the table. And a reminder for people that are new to the show here and new to Reckless Speculation Thursday, this is a safe space to entertain ideas and thoughts, okay? So I feel like sometimes we'll put clips out on social media and we'll do these episodes, and that's never going to happen. The rule here on Thursdays is it doesn't matter if it's not going to happen. It only matters if it's fun to speculate whether it would or wouldn't happen. Mm-hmm. So, some ground rules for you guys.
And could it be discussed? Like internally, like among the conversations that the Vikings could have, that will probably never happen, right?
Right.
Like that's the thing is, I love when people are like, a team would never talk about that. Do you realize the crap teams talk about?
Dude, it's funny because Gerson Rosas came on this show like 2 years ago, before all the stuff hit the fan. And we asked him, okay, we're just, you've been on the show enough, Gerson. Like, you hear us just kicking around these harebrained ideas and theories. Do you guys do the same thing? And if so, how many of them do you actually, like, bring to other teams? He goes, yes, we do the same thing. And he goes, I would guess about 50% of our harebrained ideas get talked about behind the scenes with other teams. Like, that's what they do.
Yes. Well, don't forget, the creator of the trade machine works for the Wolves.
That's right.
Yep.
They literally do that all the time. Sachin is still over there. Sachin Gupta in the Wolves front office. By the way, when we get to the Wolves, I'll wonder about his future because he almost exited a year ago to go work for his buddy Raphael Stone in Houston. So I'm still curious to see what takes place with Sachin Gupta come this offseason.
So we'll get to some Wolves, but just to start with here, we're so used to the pre-draft Vikings press conference during the Rick Spielman era. It always happened like 2 days. It was like the Tuesday before the draft, like 48 or 72 hours. It's happening today. So we're doing it. This is it, right? It's happening 2 weeks before the draft with Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell. Why would that be?
I don't know, Phil. I wonder the same thing, even last year.
No, why would that be?
Judd, do you remember exactly when last year? Maybe we need to go back and look. I don't recall it being 2 weeks before the first round. It may have been a week. I don't recall last year. Maybe I need to go back and look. Here is one potential conspiracy theory. How about that? That Monday is the start of off-season workouts, Will every player on the roster be in Eagan on Monday? I'm not convinced that will be true. Now, on Monday, we will get some FaceTime. I can tell you these players will be there because we've been told we will talk to these guys. KJ Osborne, Harrison Smith, Lewis Seen, Garrett Bradbury. But what about Zadarius Smith? What about Daniil Hunter? Is this a way for Kwesi, for Kevin to not have to address potential news that takes place next week?
Because they did this with Donatel. They held a press conference, and it was before the Donatel firing, knowing that they were going to fire
Absolutely
Donatel,
they
but
knew.
they didn't really want to address the media
like 2
after
days.
firing. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. But and keep in mind too. So if guys don't show up, they can't be fined. They can make extra if you check off the box of showing up for the off-season program. You do get bonuses, but the only thing that is mandatory from now until the first day of training camp is the 3-day mini camp. So the Vikings will say, well, I mean, it's their right. It
is their right.
Though.
I mean,
but it
there's no
means something.
debating that. It is voluntary. We should stress that.
Yes,
Monday
but-
is not mandatory. Not every player needs to be there on Monday.
But it's interesting if they're not. And it very much is a sense of your commitment to said team if you do show up, I think especially for the opening. So like it's definitely worth discussing. What the Vikings will stress is, well, Daniil doesn't have to be here. And so you go back and forth. Phil, on your point about the Donatel thing. So the one thing that there's no question about that or debate is O'Connell is definitely sensitive to what is reported and written and talked about. The Donatel thing, I wonder if there's a reverse psychology here, because I think the Donatel thing was definitely perceived as being a bit embarrassing because like they just dismissed it. And then, a day or so after they fired him, I wonder if they are trying to get in front of the game here a little bit because they feel like they didn't in that case, because they definitely got mocked. Like it's, why didn't you tell us? So I think Dukes is going down a very interesting, explorable path in saying this.
Well, I mean, like what exactly are they going to say today? 14 days out. The draft board
Best player
is not even set.
phone ringing.
Right? I mean, the deep dive trade talks haven't taken place yet, right? Whether they move backwards, I think that's more likely, or potentially move up from 23. Like, they're not knee deep in those trade talks. So, hey, we're never going to turn down FaceTime with the number one franchise in town, the leaders of that franchise. Trust me, we'll embrace that time later today, 12:45 this afternoon, although I'll actually be over at Wolves practice at that time, but we'll have representation there. I'll watch the video. I'll, hear some tidbits from that.
Bring
But,
your boxing headgear
what
to
exactly,
Wolves pod.
What exactly is going to be said today, 2 weeks out? Just interesting to me that they decided to do this today, not this time next week, or as you laid out, the Spielman regime. It was typically, that Monday or Tuesday of draft week.
Spielman was great, too, because he would always get up there unprompted. He would do a little, introduction, and every single year it would be about just how many phone calls they've been getting, right? We're just, my phone's been ringing, and and then he would talk in circles about how, there's a good chance we could move back. There's a good chance we could move up. There's a good chance we could stand pat. He'd talk about all he would talk for 30 minutes. Make it clear that they're open for phone calls and say nothing. I think we're going to get more of the same here.
Yes.
And I know that you guys talked about quarterbacks yesterday. Judd, our guy Tyler Fornes at Vikings Wire, where Judd has a Christian Ponder post-traumatic stress syndrome article up this morning on VikingsWire.com. Fornes actually pulled the trigger on Vikings trading up to 3 in his mock, which I commend. I think that's amazing.
Giving up what? Because I heard you with our guy Thor Nystrom the other day on Purple Daily going through said exercise. You guys somehow moved up from 23 to 3.
We gave up all of our future first-round picks,
with
basically.
C.J. Stroud not going 1 or 2. So in your scenario, somehow Stroud got to pick 3, which I have a hard time believing.
Well, you can blame the PFF mock draft simulator for its random nature. Yeah. Well, there's
And that's out there now,
Schefter's
too.
Schefter's putting it out there that the Texans aren't guaranteed to take Stroud or a quarterback. So if Bryce Young goes number 1, and the Texans feel like, actually, we think we could get like Will Levis with our second first-round pick. Let's draft a let's draft an edge rusher or something, then the Cardinals are over. But here's my question for you guys. How wide would the gap, knowing how Kwesi operates, he doesn't operate in black and white. He operates in percentages. He views everything as a stock, right? He views, if we draft this player, there's an X% chance he pans out versus this player. And I'm sure they have all this
it's all
laid
about
out.
the numbers. I mean, remember, at the Combine, a high-profile agent I know is in the suite in Indianapolis. There's Emily, one of Kwesi's associates, literally on her calculator, doing all sorts of different breakdowns, all these caponomics, all this different stuff. And this agent wasn't like taken aback. He's like, whoa, they're incredibly diligent trying to figure out their crappy cap situation. But like literally, like it's a math equation. It really is.
So how in that math equation of, the percentage chance that this quarterback is going to pan out versus this quarterback, how wide would that gap have to be between? Let's just use C.J. Stroud as maybe I don't know what their draft board looks like, but for them to trade up to draft C.J. Stroud and give up 2 future first round picks and more, versus maybe trading back, gaining draft capital, moving back to like 28 or 30, and taking Hendon Hooker instead. How wide would the gap have to be in their perceived value of C.J. Stroud versus Hendon Hooker to give up all that draft capital versus gaining draft capital to take the other guy? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. That's why I think it's more the latter, not the former, giving up all that draft capital. What about all these good draft-eligible quarterbacks a year from now? The USC kid, the North Carolina kid. Is it possible? Now, I told Judd, we did something yesterday, Phil, that my sense is the young quarterback is coming now more so than a year from now, but I'm not dismissing the possibility of maybe a year from now them making a bold move like that. I sense that all the work they're doing on these draft-eligible quarterbacks now, it seems like they're doing more work now than many other years. I mean, maybe we have to go back to the Bridgewater year or the Ponder year. I guess maybe the Mond year, they did a good amount of work. But it seems like on background, like, trust me, they have the book on Hendon Hooker. Like, they have spoken with multiple people at Virginia Tech going back to his time there. So that's just one example. They have, the Stanford quarterback in for a visit earlier this week. Formal interviews at the Combine, right, with Will Levis, with the UCLA quarterback. It just seems like they're doing so much work on quarterbacks now that I think a move comes now compared to a year from now. But I'm just saying, if you wanted to go all in, would it make more sense to do that a year from now? Are you really willing to give up multiple first-round picks right now, Phil, to get up that high? Oh, by the way, Arizona is going to have multiple options, right? Are they willing to move all the way back from 3 to 23? If Arizona is presented 4 or 5 different trade scenarios, why do they choose the Vikings offer?
So I don't think, and we discussed this, I think, about a week back or so. First of all, I don't think these guys are going to lock in on this is what we absolutely have to do, because they do play the percentages. They're going to want to wait until they get to the poker game to actually decide on the fly a little bit. And so my guess is that they have multiple options of if we target a quarterback. One thing that we're probably dismissing too is this. I think anybody from Tanner McKee on down, and he might be a 3rd round pick, but anybody from
or
him
a 6th rounder, by the way. I mean,
well, right.
You see varying opinions on him, other quarterbacks, but I mean, McKee may not go until late on Saturday.
And here's the important thing. If you do that, there is no reason why you couldn't potentially take him, develop him, make a decision, and then draft another quarterback next year. I think we get 2 locked in. Now, if it's a top 3 guy, top 4 guy, I think that's your guy. But my guess is that there are variables here. And the one thing we still don't know is this. So I think we have a good idea of how Kwesi works to a certain degree with percentages and trading back. But you know what we don't know yet? We don't know O'Connell's draft day influence. And I don't know that his draft day influence was really felt last year, but he's got a year now. He's got quarterbacks now that he's watched a ton. So the other question is there a plan where Kwesi basically adjusts or puts his feelings aside a little bit because O'Connell says, I love this guy. There are so many interesting angles here that I think go so far beyond how Spielman drafted, that it's wait and see. But I really do believe that, you know what, if they took a guy like McKee in the 5th round and he developed and he's okay, but then they find themselves in a position to get a 1st-round quarterback in 24, I don't think you can dismiss that. With Spielman, you pretty much could.
Yeah, I agree with that. And on the myriad scenarios, I agree on that too. Like, I firmly believe, I don't know this to be 100% true, but as much as they loved the Jets wide receiver Garrett Wilson this time last year, that if Garrett falls, if he gets to pick 12 last year, instead of all the moving back, do they just pull the trigger right then and there on that wide receiver because they liked him that much, right? But that scenario didn't unfold. But that's what we're talking about. Like, and now we're talking about pick 23. You know, how many different guys, as they're going through their mocks, this guy falls, this guy doesn't fall. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't dismiss that, though. Yeah, I mean, if you take a swing on a 5th-round guy this year, absolutely, you could take a swing next year very high up.
I saw a disturbing video on TikTok yesterday of Will Levis eating a whole banana, like the peel, and you just eating the banana with the peel.
What?
So you wouldn't draft him?
Would that make him a red flag guy on your draft board that Will Levis
Bananas are good for you, though.
Full banana. The peel? The peel?
Yeah,
Isn't there some, like, weird drink concoction that he also enjoys? I'm Googling this right now. Let's see if I can multitask.
I think it was Trevor Hildenberger of the Twins. Used to just eat bell peppers, just like whole, like eat it like an apple. He would just take one and just
Yeah,
bite
so what
into
does
it.
that headline say right there, Phil? Do you have your glasses?
I don't need him yet here, but I'm staring into a light. Will Levis drinks his coffee with mayonnaise?
That's
I'm
not true.
out.
What?
That can't be true.
That was
Yeah,
not true.
That
That
Are we
got
sure?
dismissed.
Okay,
it was a
did?
bit.
All right, because
If
I did
you're
a
the Vi- if
Google.
you're
I
the
remember
Vikings,
Mayo,
that's
so I
the-
did a Google Will Levis Mayo.
Yeah. No,
That's the first
headline that
question
came
you
up.
ask him at the combine, right? You get 15 minutes with Will Levis. All right, we'll talk about X's and O's. Do you put mayo in your coffee,
here
guy?
we go. All right. People also ask via the Google search, does Will Levis actually put mayo in his coffee? He says he was merely joking. All right,
Yes.
so there we go.
Wow.
But a whole
There's
banana.
the next question, though, Phil. How does Will Levis eat a banana?
Maya Mackey loves her Nutrisource without mayonnaise. It doesn't need mayonnaise because it tastes so good to our dogs. Nutrisource is the official pet food of Mackey and Judd and Purple Daily. Maya Mackey was a little early on the wake-up call this morning, but who can blame her with that Nutrisource chicken and rice food calling her name Judd?
Stella pulled the covers off of me today. I was literally trying to get a few more winks in before the alarm went off, and she pawed the covers off, and it wasn't because she loves me. It wasn't even because she wanted to go outside. It's because she wanted her Nutrisource, much like your guy Vinny.
Yeah, we did a little patio hopping yesterday, and unfortunately, Vinny was looking for Nutrisource treats. He was sitting there, patient, obviously looking like a good boy, waiting for some Nutrisource treats. So if the North Loop restaurant scenes can pick up some Nutrisource, my dog would very much appreciate it.
Instead, he had to settle for some crab cakes or
that's
something.
okay.
Yeah, there he
Down's
is.
right there, Declan.
Yeah, for those who watch us on YouTube. Wasn't he looking for some shrimp? Did you tweet that?
There was some peel and eat shrimp that might have been in play.
You didn't hook him up?
He was a very good patio hopping boy. He was just waiting for his.
NutrisourcePetFoods.com to find a Nutrisource retailer near you. Just to wrap up Vikings here. So did we put up much of a fight for Krus Boyd? Krus Boyd, excellent special teams player. I think became a little bit of a punchline on defense a couple of years ago, but excellent special teams player. So that is a loss to not be re-signing him, dudes.
Absolutely. Although in their minds, not really, because they made zero attempt to re-sign Krus Boyd. He took the visit to the New York Giants a couple weeks ago, ultimately signs a one-year deal with the Arizona Cardinals. But I'm with you. Really good special teams player. They will miss him on special teams, but bottom line, they did not make any sort of attempt to re-sign Krus Boyd. On Duke Shelley, we never got into Duke Shelley a couple weeks ago. I had some tweets on it, but we never verbalized any of this. They said, hey, we'll bring you back, Duke, on a minimum deal. Well, he got a little bit more than the minimum. He ended up firing his agent, hired a new agent in the middle of the free agency process, so that didn't help matters. But he ultimately signs with the Las Vegas Raiders, ended up getting something like $1.3 million guaranteed, which is a tick above a guy with that much service time, a tick above the minimum. But the Vikings were not willing to do anything above the minimum with Duke Shelley.
With Boyd gone, is Kirk O'Chains dead? Because he was the guy. He started it.
Yeah, he did start that. That's a
Is
very
Kirk
good question.
Cousins gone
I think it's
completely now?
it's more of a sign that they're trading Kirk Cousins to the Niners, right? They're not bringing back Thielen, his best friend. They're not bringing back Eric Kendricks, the leader of the defense, and Krus Boyd, the originator of Kirkland chains.
That's it.
Tomorrow night at Target Center, the Timberwolves have a game that I think could be an interesting fork in the road, Doogie. I guess I know you guys talked a little Timberwolves yesterday on the bonus scoop session, but it just feels like if this is maybe I'm just being a homer here, but if they win tomorrow night, I actually feel like I'm not going to predict right now that they're going to beat the Nuggets and upset the number 1 seed, but I think they could give Denver problems if they're playing at a high level in a 7-game series. So I'm interested to see if they win, what happens. If they lose and they miss the playoff bracket, and I know they can blame 50 games of Cat's absence and everything, but the way the season would have ended with guys punching each other and walls, and you still don't know if this group can play together, and 19 blown double-digit leads, and Chris Finch, I just wonder what the fallout is if they don't win against Oklahoma City tomorrow night.
11 blown double-digit leads in the fourth quarter this year. Second worst in the NBA. I'm with you. Like, they could give Denver a series. I'd feel much better if Jaden McDaniels was available, if Naz Reid was available, but I don't think it's a 4-game sweep for the Nuggets or even a series that ends in 5. I think it could extend to 6 games. I would pick Denver, then I would pick Denver to lose in the second round to Phoenix. I don't love this Nuggets team, with all due respect to my guy Ryan Saunders there in Denver, also one of my guys, Calvin Booth, who's now running the Nuggets front office. But yes, to me, after last night, after OKC wins in New Orleans, this is the worst of the 2 possible scenarios. Like, to me, you wanted New Orleans tomorrow night, not OKC, not a real favorable matchup. These teams haven't played since mid-December. Since that matchup in mid-December, the 2 teams have the same identical record. This OKC team is pretty good. I still think the Wolves find a way tomorrow night, Phil. But then after that, I think it's an inevitable first-round loss. So then the question is, inevitably, okay, Chris Finch, is he still here? What about some other changes? Until I hear otherwise, as long as Glenn Taylor is the majority owner, and he will be until either December of this year or March of next year, I just don't see Glenn cutting that check to send Chris Finch on his way. A year ago, Chris Finch signed a 4-year extension. They would be eating a lot of money on the Chris Finch contract. So I just have a hard time believing that. But I wonder about Sachin Gupta's future. Jalen Noel, no way is he back. Naz Reid, unrestricted free agent. So how does his future
You got to get him
play
back.
out? So, changes will come. I just don't know if it'll be like massive changes now. I told Judd yesterday, Phil, I think 1 year from now has a chance to be way more fascinating on the Wolves front. I just wonder about Tim Connolly's future.
Wow.
There's some people in league circles, right? This is a safe space, as you laid out at the beginning of this conversation.
You brought us up yesterday.
This is a safe space, some reckless speculation, but I do think there's an Eastern Conference job that if it opens, it's not open right now, but if it opens, would be very appealing to Tim, to his family. There's some scuttlebutt about some ability for him to be able to get out from his 5-year contract. Would the Wolves at that point say, okay, if you don't want to be here, see you bye? Another fascinating angle with OKC here tomorrow night. In an alternate universe, Sam Presti, who runs the Thunder, would be running the Wolves. Like, he was a guy that Mark Lowry absolutely had all sorts of interest in, but it would have taken draft capital. It would have taken a lot. I'm not even sure Sam Presti, after acquiring all those first-round picks, laying the groundwork, maybe it's a year or 2 sped up. Imagine how good OKC is going to be when Chet Holmgren is healthy. But I think Sam Presti wants to see this thing through for the next few years, so I don't think it ever came remotely close to Sam Presti saying, oh, okay, Mark, okay, Alex, let me listen to your pitch. Yeah, I'm really, really interested in that Wolves job. But I'm just saying he was very much on Lowry and A-Rod's radar.
So, Dukes, give me, recklessly speculating, give me one major roster move that you think could take place before training camp opens if the Wolves go out tomorrow.
And
remember, no one's going to judge you.
Jaden's going nowhere. Yeah. I mean, I think what you're alluding to is, could they trade Cat this summer, right?
Or Gobert.
Well, that's one thing. Yeah, but
Well, I mean, on Gobert, Chicago, Toronto Heck, you don't think Dallas right now would
Dallas,
enjoy
dude.
having
Dallas is the idiot
Rudy
in the
Gobert?
fantasy league. You
Yeah.
got to call Dallas.
Yeah, well, so, I mean, you could move. Like, if you're asking me if you could move or not move Rudy Gobert, you could move him. But what are you getting in return? What sort of loss are you taking?
I almost
could
feel like
they
you have
move
to-
if they
you
wanted
have
to
to ignore
move
that.
Rudy this summer? They can move Rudy
Yeah.
this summer. I just don't sense that the Cat trade happens now. Now, I'm not sure in a couple years we'll be having a conversation about Cat being here, but right now, not convinced that it happens.
If they lose tomorrow night, I mean, this is why I think it's a fork in the road. If they win tomorrow night and they go 6 games with the Nuggets, you can definitely make a case internally. All right, wow, that was a tumultuous, crazy, weird, somewhat disappointing season, but we fought at the end. Let's try this thing again, and then if it's not working, we can evaluate at the trade deadline.
I'm with you, because they will also say, outside of a tiny stretch at the beginning of the season, when did they have everybody? Taurean Prince misses, 20-something games. Jordan McLaughlin misses 20-something games. Jalen Noel ends up missing 18 to 20 games. Cat misses all that time. Even Gobert missed a handful of games, right? I mean, outside of Ant and McDaniels, right, of your core, your main core, right? They'll say, well, and I guess Kyle Anderson as well, but they'll say, yeah, I mean, we never had a sustained stretch of all these guys being healthy. So I'm with you, Phil. You could justify, if you win tomorrow night, then take Denver to 6 or even 7 games, maybe even 5. You could justify it by saying, we'll just run this thing back. But we're not that far away. Heck, we win a few more games. We lost 10 games to the bottom feeders of the league. Heck, if we go 5-5 in those 10 games, we don't even deal with the play-in. Heck, we would have been as high as a 4 seed. That was our preseason goal. Top 4 in the Western Conference. Home court advantage in the first round. We're really not that far away. So they could justify that with a win tomorrow night.
But if you lose, and I will say this, you have a depleted Timberwolves team, and Oklahoma City has the best player in the building in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's the best player in the building in that game.
I hope somebody wouldn't debate us on, well, Ant or no. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the best player in the building tomorrow.
And they've, and they can put up clunkers. Like this is not a fully formed Oklahoma City team by any means. But they went into Los Angeles. They beat the Clippers a couple weeks back. They've gone on the road and given, some of the better teams in the Western Conference a fight. They beat the Warriors 3 weeks ago.
I mean, how about even last night, just making all those clutch free throws?
Yeah.
I mean, second youngest roster in NBA history. But the moment last night, a win, move on, lose, go home scenario. So they knew if they lost last night, season over. It didn't seem like the moment was too big for those guys.
Can you really run this back? Let's say I'm just going to, again, safe space here. Let's say the vibes are weird tomorrow night and Oklahoma City runs you by 15 points in your own building.
Ooh.
Which, is a possibility. Can you really run this back?
On the possibility scale, though, where would you rank that?
But could you run it if you get beat in that game?
You could get beat, but by 15?
But can you run it back? Can you run it all back after that? Finishing the season with back-to-back losses in the play-in and guys punching each other in walls.
Well, I think that's where, some deeper conversations take place. That's where I would say, let's revisit this conversation. If they do end up losing tomorrow.
What if it's a blown double-digit fourth quarter lead? Let's put it that way. Like you
another one?
You blow another 12-point lead in the fourth quarter, and guys are pissed. And now you're looking at Chris Finch, which I already am, and saying, dude, why is this happening time after time after time? Why is your team so undisciplined? Why are they committing so many dumb fouls? Like, a lot of this comes back to leadership.
It was a theme all year.
Right?
They were an emotional roller coaster all year, right? Leading the league in
leadership,
technicals.
man. That's leadership.
Ejections, flagrant fouls. Heck, if you go back to, the playing game on Tuesday, those Memphis playoff losses last year, it's now 4 consecutive post-regular season losses where they had a double-digit lead in the second half.
Dude, can I
it's
give you
a theme, right?
Just for fun here, people are going to kill. I mean, people have been killing Judd and I for 48 hours because we, shocking. The Supermax player that's been here for 8 years, we put more on him than we do on Kyle Anderson when it comes to the Wolves culture.
Yeah, although my rebuttal to that is they're not even in that position in the fourth quarter on Tuesday without Cat's brilliance the first 3 quarters.
He's paid to put them in that position. That is his job. You don't just get to clock out then. But here's the numbers I want to bring to you.
Sure.
In those 4 games you mentioned, the last 4 post-regular season games, double-digit blown fourth quarter leads. Cat has played 44 minutes in those fourth quarters and overtime. 44 minutes. 6 personal fouls, 4 of 14. 4 made shots. 4 made shots in 44 minutes. Only 8 rebounds in 44 minutes. In the games that you need to hold double-digit leads, that's it to win. Put your foot on someone's throat. Well, but they're running double teams at him.
No.
That's great. Awesome. Then make a play.
That's where I'll say on Tuesday night, Hachimura is on him one-on-one, or Austin Reeves is on him one-on-one, and he's settling for a 22-foot jump shot. So, yes, I mean, we can hold Cat accountable. I'm just saying I thought he was brilliant the first 3 quarters.
He was.
That the reason they had a chance on Tuesday was in large part because of Cat. But yeah, I mean, he has to be better. I mean, there's no denying that. You just laid out all the evidence. And specifically on Tuesday, he was horrendous. 4th quarter and overtime. No denying that.
Yep.
Back to a roster move, though. So here's the one thing. If Chris Finch comes back, which I'm with you, Dukes, I don't think that they're going to pay him not to work. I mean, that's at some point in time, it just gets to be ridiculous how much that has transpired with this franchise. Yeah. But
trust me, Glenn wasn't a big fan of paying Tibbs.
Yeah,
time
exactly.
He had to pay Tibbs. Okay.
So if Chris Finch comes back, can you afford not to bring Nas back? And then my question is, what are the salary implications here? Because for the same reason that I don't think Glenn is going to be a fan of paying Chris Finch to be on his couch, if you're going to go towards the luxury tax, I'm going to guess Glenn is going to balk at that too. So my question is, would you not bring Naz Reid back? And if you do, who has to go? Because Naz Reid, to what you said earlier, Darren, is a great fit here. He's a perfect fit. And to Phil's point, it does seem like when he's on the floor, there is a presence and leadership that he brings that a lot of guys on this team don't seem to bring.
Well, I mean, to me, no brainer. Yes, I bring back Naz Reid. I want Naz Reid on the Wolves next year. They have tried. Let me make this very clear. They have tried for the better part of 9 months, even going back further, to extend Naz Reid.
Yeah.
So clearly the two sides can't come to a happy medium. That's because the Naz side says, hey, 10 teams will have pretty darn good cap space. We can get more than $10 million a year, more than the mid-level. Worst case, yeah, okay, we'll sign a 4-year contract for the mid-level, but there's more money to be made out there. Let's go see if we can chase that money. Why not get to July 1? Why would we sign an extension now? But who has to go? I mean, you're really looking at luxury tax ramifications a few years out, right? Okay. After Ant signs his max, what does the Jaden McDaniels extension look like? Clearly, when you don't include him in the Gobert trade, Utah really wanted Jaden McDaniels. You want Jaden here for his next contract. What does that look like? Well, Mikal Bridges with the Brooklyn Nets now, formerly with the Phoenix Suns, he's at $480. I think that's a decent comp. I'm not saying that Jaden McDaniels right now is as good as Mikal Bridges, but I think if you're the McDaniels camp, you're looking at that and saying, okay, a couple of years ago, if Mikal gets $480, we can get a little bit more than that, or at least in that ballpark. So you're looking at Jaden McDaniels as potentially a $20 to $22 million a year player, maybe even a little bit more. Okay, Ant, you've got Gobert still in the books. You've got Cat at the Supermax. So we're looking a few years out. I just wonder about Taurean Prince, non-guaranteed contract for next year. But then you think about how good he was on Tuesday. Don't you want Taurean Prince here next year? Final year of his contract. Very, very team-friendly. It still is baffling to me that Taurean bypassed free agency a year ago to take a 2-year, $16 million deal with the Wolves, non-guaranteed, that second year. I don't know why Taurean bypassed free agency a year ago. Just baffling, very baffling to me. But don't you want Taurean Prince here next year? But when you start looking at the books, I just wonder if something then gives on Taurean Prince if you re-sign Naz Reid for, let's say, 4 years, $48 million.
Yeah, well, you got so many wing players, you may need to say goodbye to an expensive, veteran wing player and give Josh Minott some run just to stay in the luxury tax.
Well, and, Wendell Moore Jr. still has some sort of future. I think he can be a rotational guy, their first-round pick from a year ago. And I talk about Naz at $448. The real issues would be years 3 and 4 of that deal, right? So how do you structure the money? Maybe it's not, up. Maybe you give him the big money next year and it goes down a little bit. But I'm just saying, years 3 and 4 of that contract, that's where it would get very, very interesting. You also think about, 3 years down the road, okay, we think Mark Lowry, Alex Rodriguez will be the majority owners. Yes, they've brought in investors, but like, what evidence is there to suggest that those guys have the money to pay a luxury tax? Glenn did it a couple years ago after the D'Angelo Russell trade. Wasn't real happy about it, but I'm just saying, like, do we know that Mark and Alex have the money to dip into the luxury tax in a few years? I would hesitate on that one.
Yeah. By the way, Nas and Gobert was one of the worst two-man pairings of any Wolves lineup combination, so you'd have to figure that out too. But, Dukes, what's rapid-fire scoops here? What else you got in your bag before we say goodbye?
Well, on the Wolves theme, they have scouting representation right now in Portsmouth in Virginia for a pre-draft camp. Couple local guys, Gabe Kauscher, De La Salle High School, and Race Thompson, Daryl's son, from Robbinsdale Armstrong High School. Those are two local guys taking part in the Portsmouth pre-draft camp. Latrell Wrightsell Jr., a transfer guard from Cal State Fullerton, first team All Big West a year ago. I'm told he will visit the University of Minnesota this weekend. Right now, he's scheduled to visit his home state, Nebraska Cornhuskers, tomorrow, though Nebraska yesterday picked up a couple kids, including a 6'6", 6'7" guard / small forward in the portal. So I reached out to somebody I know at Nebraska. I haven't heard back yet, but I wonder with them getting, in particular, that 6'7", 2/3 man, if Latrell is still in their mix, but he's from Omaha, Nebraska. So Nebraska may be the front runner if they do indeed want him, but pretty good player. I mean, to me, if he ends up here, he automatically slots in as their starting two guard.
There he is.
Reckless
Darren
speculation.
Doogie Wolfson, 5 Eyewitness News and the Scoop Podcast. Great
All right,
stuff,
boys.
man.
Always appreciate it.
All right. That's your scoop session here on this Reckless Speculation Thursday on Minnesota Sports with Mackie and Judd. We'll hit you with a little more Timberwolves talk as well, and Purple Daily. I'm gonna throw kind of on Purple Daily. I feel like we haven't explored a certain angle enough, and we're gonna do that today. So plenty coming at you on SKOR North today.